And we're live. Good evening, whiskey brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 7 of the Canadian Whisky Journey's Whiskey Review. I'm Dolph. I'm your host tonight, and I'm joined by Blair Phillips. He is the co-author to this book right here, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries, the portable expert to over 200 distilleries and the spirits they make. It's a great book. And we're continuing our Canadian Whisky Journey with a review of this bottle right here, Eau Claire's Ruperts Exceptional Canadian Whiskey. And now this is the second week that we've reviewed a value whiskey. And there's a reason behind our madness. I think this and Stock and Barrel's 3 Grain are probably the 2 best value whiskeys I think we have in the country. I have a hard time thinking of something else that's better than these two for a $30, $35 bottle. I really enjoy them. So Blair, in your article, and let's throw up the article if we could, right there. Well, here's the site that we get it on, CanadianDistilleries.com. There's the article. You open with the history and sale of Ruperts Land to the government of Canada. Now, can you tell us a bit more about the historical focus that Eau Claire uses and continues to do it? They're not unique. A lot of people actually have a historical link, but they go kind of above and beyond. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Prince Rupert is a famous figure with the Hudson's Bay Company, but this whiskey isn't about him, actually. This is more about back in like from 1670 to 1870, an area called Ruperts Land covered 1/3 of Canada's landmass. It's a massive space, and this was the commercial space for the Hudson's Bay Company until I think it was March 1869. And what they did was they rented this land after. Well, what happened is in 1869 the government of Canada bought it for $1.5 million. This massive area that was 1/3 the size of Canada, as I mentioned. So it was a bit of Alberta, Saskatchewan, all of Manitoba, some of Ontario, and that kind of thing. Oh yeah, it's a massive. It's I think it was the biggest real estate transactions in terms of size in might be North American history. But so HBC rented this land for the price of 2 elk heads and 2 beaver pelts, and they'd send over the royal couple every now and again to collect on this debt. Very Illuminati-ish. Like, it sounds like something that you'd wear to an Illuminati party. Slap on the elk helmet, and it's just very bizarre, right? But that kind of ties into what Eau Claire was trying to do with this whiskey. Was they wanted to give this whiskey a real sense of geographical place, especially with the barley they harvest to make their whiskey, and because it's made with Alberta barley, they wanted to make a whiskey that took it beyond the borders. So you have your Alberta grains, makes Alberta whiskey, and just like Rupert's Land, they wanted to just have it available across the country, kind of thing. Yeah.
And here's another question too about your. Here's this picture. I love this picture. Who takes the pictures that you put on your site?
This was courtesy of Eau Claire, and I think we credited them for it, but. Yeah, they sent a couple pictures, and that one just stood out.
I think this one as well. I've used that, but this one really does stand out. I like that a lot.
Right. I don't recommend doing that. You'll spill some whiskey, but I prefer to just pour it gently into a glass of ice or have it neat like this. It's quite a round
too. I've got it neat on the side for nosing, but I did. Their cocktail, and we were talking about this before, but they put this on the bottle, and it's the maple whiskey sour. So I made that 1.5 ounce of the whiskey, 1 ounce of lemon juice, and says 1/2 ounce of maple syrup. I used about 1/4, probably less, because I don't like the sweet, but it's fantastic. And I'm not fantastic with these either, but I like it a lot.
No.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's kind of cool that they use maple syrup as their sweetening agent for the cocktail, because I got some of that, not the sweetness of maple syrup in the whiskey, but when you smell it, some of those like woody maple notes really come out.
It came out. All right.
Yeah.
I could go for that. Sure. Well, and you know what? Let's delve into this. But as you delve into it, I'm going to throw some information down to people. So of this guy, it's 750 mils, 400%, 40%. Geez, about 35 bucks throughout Canada. I'll put you on the spot. Do you know offhand if they're selling in the States yet?
Not yet, I don't think.
Okay.
The last I heard, it's available in Alberta only, and there's plans to get into other. Yeah, but they have big plans for this whiskey. They want to get it out to people, and I think it's just a matter of getting through to the different bureaucratic channels to get on shelves.
Okay. Well, it's fantastic, and anyone watching in Ontario or friends other places, you need to get some, or maybe we can get some down here. Non-chill filtered, no color added. I'm also going to kind of focus on this guy right here. So Rupert is the name of the moose right there on the label. He's been their main social animal that's been depicted on their labels for the last 6 years. And so Rupert finally has himself a whiskey. So good for him. And I'm pretty happy with it. But what do you get on the nose? What else do you have? So let's get into the tasting notes now. And my first one is just malty. I usually caramel with malty, but I like this a lot. The fact that I'm not getting a lot of sweetness, there's a lack of an overt sweetness here. Mm-hmm. And I can't, it's not sweet on the nose. I get the malt, I get the spice, I get a bit of vanilla.
Yeah, it's fruity, kind of like those fruity, like if you walk by a guy smoking a pipe or something like that, it has that kind of vibe to it. Yeah. And I got those wine gum candies that I haven't had them in years, but they're just the pack of those jelly type things, and they're not overly sweet either. Yeah. And it's that amalgamation of different kinds of fruits. Okay.
I got that on the palate. You get that on the nose?
Yeah.
So on the nose. Yeah. Okay. For me on the palate, it's a bit winey. So that's where I was going with that, but only on the palate. I'm not picking it up on the nose.
I think if you let it sit for a bit, it might come out.
Maybe
it might not. I don't. This is I pulled that a while ago, but right now it's all about those malts. You're right.
Love it. Oh, sorry. And Kent said no Davin tonight, so let's answer that. So, my friend, Whiskey Ass here. Good. And I'll just show you a picture what we think. This is what Davin's working on tonight. So on Thursday, we have the Canadian Whisky Awards. We don't have the link on here. I'm just showing you what he threw up, and this is his Twitter account. He did the same thing on Instagram. So there's that one, and here's the list of who won in the past. I'm pretty sure that's what he's focusing on tonight. So, and this is Thursday night, 7 o'clock our time, 9 o'clock Ontario or just Eastern time. And so no Davin tonight. He's busy, but we're happy to do this and carry him up. And Blair, you said that he did a backflip after he tried the whiskey and hurt his back. Right?
Yeah, you always have to stick to your landing when you're doing a backflip.
I was going to say that he did the splits in the landing inadvertently, and that was the problem. But since he's not here, we can make up whatever we want. It's his problem, not me. Sorry, Dad. Good.
But it's going to be good. It'll be fun to see if this whiskey is part of Thursday night's festivities or not. I don't know if they've entered or not, but man, there's something about a couple of these blended whiskeys in Canada that are malt focused with a bit of another whiskey blended in. It's just fantastic.
Now this has a lot of batch 4 in it, from what I believe. But
I don't think it's batch. Is it batch 4?
Is it batch 3?
I think it's just. I'm assuming that they just pulled some barrels to.
Well, I heard 4. But I can't remember where I heard it. That could have just been people yapping on the side. So I'm not going to quote that. I might be completely wrong. So forget that. But it's definitely malt forward, which I like a lot.
Yeah, and there's plans to have this as a permanent release, I believe, year round.
Good. Do you know if there's rye in it? Because on the nose, I get the spice. I get nutmeg, and I get on the palate, I get the pepper at the end of it. But I don't know if it's because it's rye or because it's young. Can you help me out? Do you know?
Nope. I would guess that's coming from the base whiskey. Maybe it was aged in ex-Canadian or in some ex-Canadian whiskey barrels. I don't know.
Okay.
There's a bit of a like when you buy base whiskey, there's a lot of agreements with the supplier that you just don't. It's an ingredient. It's what's making this fly is them putting their own malt into it to really amp up those flavors, and that's the important part. But
no, I agree.
Maybe that's coming from the base whiskey. I don't know though.
And also on the palate, I get a little bit of brown sugar. Yeah, that's the only sweetness I get. I don't get really a caramel, a butterscotch. It's just kind of a small bit of brown sugar. But that might be, you said the maple wood. So I could go for that instead of the brown sugar. It's something that hints to sweetness, but it's not sweet. Right?
Yeah.
So I could go for that.
Yeah, it's quite creamy as well.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of chocolate almost, and almost like a walnut tannin type, like walnut skin tannin that you get off the going into the finish.
That's the only place I get any nut is on the finish, and it's at the end of the finish. Mm-hmm. So it's not a long finish. It's fairly short, and it doesn't really develop, but it's a little bit of heat, but it develops into a nut. And I could go for that as well, but it's...
I started getting that late palate, actually. And this is how good it is. I've already finished one. So
pour some more. We go. Yeah. Well, I finished my other bottle, so I had one. And I liked it a lot. And because I do the Canadian... Well, our book club, I gave one of these to each of our outstanding members of the book club. So our Christmas present, or mine to them, was a book and this bottle right here. So, and I was happy to give that to him. It was well received by everybody, but I finished mine. This is my second bottle. No, this is my third bottle because I used it. I made what's it called? Irish whiskey with it as well. And that turned out really well. So, well, my family liked it. I only had a bit of the because again, it's really sweet. Okay. So, short finish for me, nutty at the end a bit, and it doesn't really develop terribly as a finish. The palate, again, the brown sugar or something something that hits at the sweetness. So the maple wood works for me. And
it's quite tight. Like it's a blend. So I think Caitlin probably designed this to be like, it has its own thing going, its own identity. It tastes like Rupert's. Like I can't think of another whiskey in Canada that would. If this was if this whiskey robbed a bank, it's going to be screwed because in the police lineup they're going to be able to nab it right away.
You know who it is. Yeah,
exactly.
And I'll go back to the winey. I still get a little bit of the winey on the palate. Not much the nose, but the palate, and still a spicy. But it's like a nutmeg, a hot nutmeg, or a little bit of pepper, which led me to think that it might have been some rye. But yeah, just the base malt works for that too. It just being young, I couldn't tell the difference between one and the other. All right, so we're hit the 14-minute mark where we did really well. Did the introductions. We talked about the distillery. We talked about the whiskey. We talked about the activities on Thursday night. Here, I'll click on it again right there. That one right there, the Canadian Whisky Awards. And we explained him away. We made up a story about Davin. We tried some fantastic, exceptional, I should say, Canadian whiskey, as the title is. Any last words from you, sir?
I give it a try.
Yes, everyone should.
Yeah.
Buy a bottle. Buy two. $30. Come on.
Yeah.
Do it.
Maybe 3.
And if you want to read any more about the article, go to that. Here's where you do the article. That's the one, Canadian Whisky Journey. That's the one. That's what the article looks like. Or go to this book right there. And the page, I think, was 118, 119. I'm right.
You know better than me.
119 in the book.
Perfect.
Have a fantastic night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Blair, for being with me here again tonight. Cheers.
Have a good night. Cheers.